Shall we turn the video on? Shall we turn the video on so everybody can see it?
Probably, since we have
Okay.
seated participants.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Sherry. Hello.
Hi, Sherry.
Okay, yeah, today we're going to talk about instructor presence, being present in your classroom, being visible to your students. And a lot of times, especially if we've taught seated classes, we kind of, I don't know, we kind of take it for granted that sometimes in our online courses our students they just know that we're there. But in reality, if they're not seeing us participating and getting in there and doing some of these other things in the classroom, they don't even know that they're there. Well, let's talk about that. Oh, well, let's first start with a question, though. I like to always start my sessions off with a question, just kind of get us involved. How would you describe presence in online classes? So you can just chat in the box, or you can get on the mic, or if you're here at the table with us, you can just, speak. But how would you describe presence in online classes?
Being available.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you be available?
Oh, when I teach online classes I usually set certain times of the day to be online so that if my students want to chat, we can chat, and answering their emails as fast as possible. It's
right,
really
good. Yeah.
Of course, grading on time is another big presence.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else? Anybody else?
I'd say anything that shows that you're remarking on what's happening in this actual class. Not just general stuff, but specific to what's happening among the students in that class.
Are you referring to mostly discussion boards?
Discussion boards, announcements, just like anywhere where you can mention specifically what's going on with this group of students. Maybe if you have a whole class, if your whole class is like having trouble with one particular topic, like the previous week, or maybe midweek you realize everybody's just way off base on something, then you would post an announcement saying, hey everybody, I see that we're kind of all missing a little bit. Remember here and here and here, and here's some other resources. Kind of rephrase my teaching material to meet the students' needs that I'm apparently not with my original material. So, Christy's having trouble with her audio.
Sorry about that. My husband was waving goodbye to me. I heard what you said though. I did a introductory audio as well, so they can hear my voice.
Yeah, that's good. Students really like that as well. When they can hear us or see us in an online course, that's a great thing to be able to do. So, all right, great. So, why do you think presence is important? What does that do for your students?
It helps keep them motivated, most of all.
Yeah, I would say probably that's the biggest part of it. The purpose of being present in our online classes is to get them motivated and engaged with their learning. So yeah, good. Okay.
Can't count on them to keep up. We have to be there and help them do that.
Well, enthusiasm is contagious. So if they see that you're involved and passionate in the material, then they're more likely to be.
I agree.
Yeah. So, the big difference between seated and online presence is, well, it's pretty much a given. Students are going to see us when we walk into the classroom and we're up there lecturing and getting them involved in discussion in a face-to-face classroom. But in an online classroom, they don't see us. There's no physical presence. We don't see each other eye to eye. We're maybe in different time zones, so it's all asynchronous. So, you know, there's a big difference. So what's important to remember about online presence is that students need to know that somebody, and that somebody is us, okay, they need to know somebody is participating, okay, and leading their educational experience. They need to know, and they need to know that we're there. They need to be able to see us. There's a lot of different ways we can do that in our online classes, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Part of this idea about presence comes from some research that's done. I just want to throw in some research here because we just don't make up these things. They're actually based on something. This is the community of inquiry model. It's basically saying that students need social presence in an online classroom, so that's sort of like interaction with peers. They need cognitive presence, which is interaction with the content. Those are the lessons and the instructional resources and things like that that you've got in your classes. And they also need teaching presence, which is interaction with instructors. And that's what our focus is for this session, is actually teaching presence. And we could probably do social presence and cognitive presence in different sessions, but I wanted to really focus in on teaching presence. Okay, so again, a little bit more research. An important component in students' performance and satisfaction with their online course is the active participation of the instructor. They've surveyed students, and they found that students, they want to see their teacher. They want to know that their teacher's in the classroom. And, you know, it also goes beyond just engagement and motivation. It really does increase the level of understanding and learning of the content when their instructor is actively participating. Okay, so it's just a little bit more research there, just throwing that in there about instructor interaction. Now, let's kind of focus in on the active participation of the instructor. Okay, these interactions help students feel less isolated in their online class. You know, when they may be logging in from Hawaii or who knows where in this world, and even here in Springfield, and you know, online classes are just them at their computers. Okay, they sometimes will have a feeling of isolation, and it's important for them to be actively engaged, not only with their peers, but with the instructor as well. Okay, so I want to focus on three elements: teaching presence, instructor immediacy, and social presence. Now, all of these kind of fall under teaching presence, but they all have to do with the instructor. Okay, so I'm going to start with teaching presence. Okay, these are ways in which we can be more present in our classrooms. One of the ways that we can do this is through course design, and then course facilitation and direct instruction. Okay, when we have a combination of these three things, all right, then we are truly present to our students. And I want to kind of pull these apart a little bit. Actually, course design is probably the first thing you do before your students are even enrolled in the class. If you've taught in an online classroom before or an online class before, you know, you're getting in there, you're creating the assignments, setting it up, getting it ready. You're going to be deciding what your students need to learn, okay? And you're going to be deciding how they will demonstrate their learning, all right? And then you're going to build those assignments, okay? So there's a lot of stuff built into course design that establishes your presence in the classroom, okay? So, you know, it's curriculum development, the learning activities, the assessment, all of that establishes your presence in the classroom, even before your students are in there, all right? Now, once the class has gotten started, then you have facilitation and direct instruction. Now, facilitation really refers to, you know, setting the tone in the course. Are you making it a welcoming and positive experience for your students? All right. Are you encouraging their participation in course activities? Acknowledging student responses, I think was mentioned something about, answering emails and Q&A questions and stuff like that. That's part of facilitation. It's very, very important to be in there and doing these things with your students after the class has started. Then, of course, you have directed instruction, and that's what we call our teaching. All right. That's presenting our content and, giving them that knowledge that they've come, that they've enrolled in the course for. But it also includes posing questions that guide student learning and summarizing discussions, confirming understanding and addressing misconceptions. And, direct instruction can take place in a lot of different areas in our course. So I'm going to kind of stop here for just a minute and kind of talk about ways in which we are present to our students in our instructional content. So what do you think? What are some ways that you are present to your students in your instruction?
Yeah, well, right now I'm creating video instructions so that if they get me in class, and then if there's something they missed, they can go back and watch it again, and it's there. Or if I do the flipped classroom, they're going to be able to see it ahead of time, and then when I demonstrate it in class, I can put it all in the context of the big picture.
Okay, good.
So,
good.
Video
One of the
clips.
things we try to stress a lot is, especially in the discussion forums, it's not only just summarizing discussions for our students, especially maybe like at the end of the week, we kind of get in there and post a little summary of the discussion, but it's actually getting in there and asking those questions to help guide their learning. In a seated classroom, we do that, after maybe we've done a little bit of lecture, then we have some discussion time, and we can ask those questions to get the students thinking a little bit deeper. But sometimes in an online classroom, sometimes those guided questions in the discussion forums don't occur as often, and so we always try to stress, in participation in the discussion areas, because it's a good way to, like it says, confirm understanding or maybe address misconceptions. Maybe you've got a whole conversation going on where students are just totally off base from what you're trying to teach, and you can draw them back in and refocus them. Okay, so it's important there. So I'm thinking, in your actual lessons, you may have lectures that you've written. Okay, that's your participation in the lesson. What about setting the tone in the course? How might you be present in that way if you're setting the tone in the course? Where might that take place?
In the design?
Yeah, in the design. Could it take place in the announcements?
Yeah.
If you're setting a tone? Or creating a positive environment?
Feedback.
Feedback's one of them. Yeah. Sometimes, and I've been in a lot of courses. Sometimes we see courses where the instructor doesn't post any announcements at all, or when they do post announcements, they're not real upbeat or positive. If I'm a student coming into a situation like that, it'd be like walking into a classroom where your teacher just, does a lecture and, looks all grumbly and then ends the class. I mean, that's kind of how I see it in an online classroom as well. I think it's just, creating a positive and warm and welcoming environment for our students really shows that you're involved, that you're enthusiastic about being there, and instructing the class. So, yeah, okay. The other one is instructor immediacy, okay? And that really just means communicating, okay? Communicating and kind of bridging that gap, that social and psychological distance between people, as the research would say. I just think it's basically communication, all right? And it's not, it needs to be communication that's immediate or just in time. If your students are asking questions in a Q&A forum in your course, or having issues in the discussion board, you need to be in there talking to them. But they give us a list of some immediacy behaviors from the research, and that's using humor and student names. Why is using student names maybe a good way to establish presence in your course? Why would they say that?
And we all like to feel like we're important, and our name is one of the ways that we can confirm that.
Absolutely. It creates a connection between you and the student, and it's just one of those good habits to get into. If we have a class of 25 or 30 students, it kind of gets old after a while. But when we use student names, it really personalizes it for them. Encouraging participation during discussion. I probably mentioned that 2 or 3 times already. Sharing personal stories. Students like to hear personal stories, or even just stories about experiences that you may have related to the content, because we're content experts and we probably have worked in the field. So when we can share those personal stories with them, they always respond well to that. Responding to student inquiries in a timely manner, providing feedback, posting announcements on a regular basis. So there's a lot of ways to, immediately get in there and connect with our students. I don't know if anybody else does anything different in their online classes, but feel free to share that as we go along.
Well, I'm curious about the different stories.
I think we lost you there.
Well, I
think we're losing your voice.
Lisa, do you have the talk button clicked?
now I've got it.
Okay.
I must have turned it off.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. No, what I was saying is that sharing personal stories usually involves a lot of eye contact when I'm telling a personal story, or at least an audio of some kind. And I have difficulty sharing a personal story using Blackboard, for example.
Right.
What do people do to do that? I mean, other than make a video or make an audio clip.
I've seen instructors who include it like in their bio, in their faculty information page. They'll put just, like personal things about themselves. I like going camping with my family. Here's a picture of us making s'mores. Even little things really kind of make a difference. It proves that you're a real human person.
Yeah, I've seen instructors post just images of like a family member or their dog or something like that. Just to kind of create a personal connection with the student.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about our personal business, for example, experience of the concepts that we're teaching. So when I'm going to give a personal story of something that happened to me that fits that concept.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a little more difficult depending on what that experience was. That might be a little more difficult. You just type it out in a big long text. You get like a short image with a few captions on it or something maybe. I don't know. You could get creative.
Yes, I'm trying to put it onto like a Camtasia/Gene project kind of a video instructor thing, and injecting some stories so that they understand how all of this works in the real world, quote, quote.
Right, and that's super important to let them know, so that students can see, like, this is why you're learning this, because in real life, here's how it is.
Yeah, Christy, you've got some good ideas there. A lecture with personal stories, Yeah, or on a discussion board. Honestly, that's where I provide a lot of instructional information, is in the discussion forums. I'll relate personal stories or experiences there, of course related to what we're learning. And you know, it's just a good place to really put a lot of our expertise in there. So yeah, absolutely. All right, great.
Does anybody use, you know, live chat, schedule live chat maybe 2 or 3 different times for the week so that people can, I could be available for an hour 3 different times a week so that people can chat with you?
There's some instructors who use collaborate sessions for like online office hours.
That might work.
Yeah, I've done that before. A lot of times it's difficult to get a lot of students there, but you know, if you just set up a time and they know you're available, you know, they'll show up, hopefully.
Well, if they don't, I'm still grading. I mean, I'm not wasting my time if I'm there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be grading, I'll be doing, you know, answering discussions or whatever, but it would be a time. I find that the students are very used to the live chat format. For them, it's just like instant messaging.
Right.
And so they're very comfortable with it. It's just a matter of, you know, syncing up time. That's the problem with, that's caused them to probably have to take online classes to begin with. So if an instructor picks, you know, several different times a day that they're going to be on there and available, that might make a difference.
I actually provide my cell phone number. I know a lot of faculty wouldn't do that, but when students know they can reach you, you have to set those parameters on when they can contact you. But if you don't want your phone number to be available to them, you can go through something like Google Voice to mask your cell phone number so they can still communicate through that, but they don't get your actual home phone number or your mobile phone number. So that's one thing I do, to be available or to be present.
That's a good thought.
A few instructors have made Facebook groups for their courses, and they find that's an easier way to kind of back and forth with their students more efficiently and more in a format that a lot of students are used to. So.
And it's a good way to, you know, post things about the classes or about, you know, give them updates and things like that, you know, in a form that they're used to. Yeah. All right, well, that kind of leads into social presence, which we've been kind of talking about a little bit. This is really kind of creating a, I don't know, kind of an environment where the student sees you as a real person, okay? And, you know, we've talked about some of those things, you know, maybe a video or, you know, sharing our work and professional interests and things like that. So, but what it does is it really models the way we want students to communicate with us. So if we're open and, you know, show ourselves as a real person in the classroom, students will usually reciprocate in the same way. Okay, how does that work with, okay, Christy had a question. How does that work with OTC's policy building, communicating with students through OTC email?
That's a hard one because, you know, the policy is there, and I think the policy was written at a time before we were using a lot of the tools that we're using now. Email is kind of the old-fashioned way of doing things. But I understand for documentation, especially in our office, documenting what's going on in the course is important if there's a grade appeal or whatever. But we also use publisher integrations where we can't capture a lot of that information either, and those are allowed. So it's kind of a gray and muddy area right now. I think you can't expect, I mean, the Facebook area is kind of an optional thing. I wouldn't make it a requirement, and a more informal, so it's important to probably communicate that to students for anything that is specific to their grade or their issue in the course or questions that are related to the course content. Definitely I would have them use email because that is documented and saved by us. And the same would be true for issues in SAM or McGraw-Hill integrations or whatever they might be. So it's a good question, though. That's one we're communicating in so many different ways now.
How about Skype?
Skype's another one that we have instructors or faculty using, and it works for them. I don't think we've run into too many issues. Of course, we don't have a lot of people using those tools to a wide degree, but if it works and it supports student learning, definitely I like to try to follow policy when I can, but it's kind of a judgment call at some point on what you think is going to be effective to reach the student.
Plus, like if you're sending a student a message about, you're on the cusp of being withdrawn, then you don't want to do that on Facebook or through another informal channel, that sort of thing. Stuff that you're going to need like documentation for, that would be official email. But if you're just...
Yeah, I think for just some of those informal things, though, some of these tools are good to use. So. All right, so how do we be more present to our students in our online classes? Well, let's start with the welcome. The welcome is probably one of the most important tools that you're going to have to get your students, to be present to your students, but also get them actively involved in the class at the very beginning. So to post a welcome announcement in your online class, or maybe just send an email to your students, or do both, or create a welcome video, or whatever, is just a really, really good way to get yourself out there and in front of your online students before the course begins and right during that first week. So, and it is kind of a thing that I think is very strongly encouraged and expected in all online courses, but you really can't discount it. It's a very, very important tool, very important strategy, I guess, for getting your students, get them to know you and, get started in their course.
It's the first impression.
First impression, absolutely. Okay, and then meeting the instructor. Obviously, they want to know more about you. So, we have our faculty bio area in the course, but, we have several instructors who also just create a video or an audio file to, introduce themselves to their students and, maybe even just mention, well, you can navigate to you can establish expectations, tell them to go visit the syllabus. There's a lot of different things you can do with the Meet the Instructor, but I would encourage faculty, if they can, if they're not scared to create a video of themselves so that the students can see and hear them. So meeting the instructor is important, kind of goes right along with the welcome. We've talked about this quite a bit, which is share information related to personal and professional interests. Again, this is just a way for students to not only get to know you, but a way for you to show your expertise in the area, because after all, you are the subject matter expert in your, in your field, so you definitely want to establish that to your students as well. Then the course layout and organization. Course design, I mentioned this a couple of slides back, but begins before your students are even in the classroom. But that course layout and organization and the ease of navigation, we want our students to be able to get through the course easily. But why do you think, and this is from research, so I'm just throwing this in here, but why would that be important to instructor presence? Just curious what you think about that.
Now, don't look at me.
Looking at you.
There we go.
Oh, good.
That's the right
She says they trust that you are competent. Absolutely. If they go in there, they have no way of knowing where they're going, what they're doing. There's no instructions. There's just there's no due dates. They have no sense of direction. How do they think Well, how do they feel about you? You know, so that's, yeah, absolutely. And that you care if they succeed. Absolutely. It's all about, like I said, creating a positive environment. And that course layout and organization is part of that. So yeah, very good. This is big, communication. There's different ways that we can communicate in an online course. Announcements is one of those. Emails to students, participation in discussions. I mean, there's just a variety of ways that we can communicate in online courses. Any other ways that you can think of communicating with your students? I've just named 3 of those there, but are there other ways that you can think of? How do you do it? Are there any other ones that I didn't mention?
You mean besides the giving out your phone number, or setting up a Skype account, or setting up you know, an instant messaging opportunity, those kind of communications?
Yeah, well, yeah, how else would you communicate other than those? Do we communicate through our feedback, for example? Hope you say yes.
Well,
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of like a given, right?
Right.
Good. Well, we also communicate through our instructional content as well. You know, it could be through a lecture. It could be the way we present our instructional content. There's just a variety of ways. So, yeah.
I actually provide feedback in my courses, not on every assignment, but on the important ones, and on a screencast. So I make a screencast, I'll bring up their paper, and I'll kind of do voiceover narration, point at the areas of their paper that I'm talking about. And you'd think that it takes a lot of work to do that, but I've been doing it several semesters now, and it gets easier and easier and faster to do that. And the student responses to that have been just incredible. They really like that personalized. They get to hear my voice, for whatever that's worth, but it's personalized to them, and it's not just canned feedback or
it's probably
feedback in general.
It's probably faster than.
Where do you post it?
I actually do a screencast using the Screencast-O-Matic tool, which is free, and I post it directly to YouTube. They snag that link and then just post it in the grade, in the Blackboard feedback area in the course. So you just post the link there. They can click on it and provide them the feedback. And if it's faster for you to give voice feedback than it would be to kind of go through and
mark up the paper.
I mean, I'm not saying it would work for everything, and it might take a little more time on certain assignments that you don't want to spend, but definitely for the bigger projects.
Oh, I love this idea. Because especially when I'm having them create their own unique PowerPoint or something like that, they want to hear, wow, this was
They can hear the excitement in your voice.
Yeah.
I
love this idea.
And just something that you more replicates, I guess, the face-to-face experience. So I was daunted by it first, but I'm going to use it more and more, and it's been effective.
You do want to make sure that when you post those videos to YouTube that you use the unlisted setting so that only that student can see it and not anybody on YouTube.
If you want to learn how to do that and do it quickly and easily, I'm sure we'd be happy to do that offline or another time.
Email?
Yeah, we can send you an email with a recording of our YouTube sessions.
Yeah.
Okay, that would work.
And then one of the things I do is I introduce my lesson. I do a video and introduce the lesson, tell them, kind of give them the objectives, and then go over the lessons and the assignments and things like that. I try to make it no more than 5 minutes, usually between 2 to 3 minutes, just real short and sweet, just saying, hey, guys, welcome back. This is week 2. We're going to be talking about blah, blah, blah this week, and these are the assignments we'll be doing, and be sure to check this out and check that out. And that was some positive feedback. So, just little things like that is, just ways to communicate differently in our online courses. Setting expectations. When we set expectations, we're, of course, course, communicating to our students. But it's good for students to know, like how often you'll check for their messages, when they can expect a response, when feedback will be posted. Most often this occurs, in our syllabus. We'll put these things in our syllabus. So I also like to, at least during that first week, I'll maybe put some of that stuff in a welcome announcement or a, beginning of the semester video or something like that. So, but setting your expectations is another way to establish presence in your course. Of course, timely feedback, we talked about that a lot. There's a lot of different ways you can provide feedback on the assignments, written or verbal, discussions, video, email, phone, virtual office hours. Well, we've talked about all of those, so it sounds like most of us are on board with that. Sharing expertise. Again, we've just kind of discussed a lot of that too. Sharing our expertise with students kind of gives them a real world perspective from you. You could also have a guest speaker come in and do that as well. But since this is a instructor present, we'll stick to that. But this is a very important part of your teaching, is sharing your expertise, because it helps the students make a connection to what they're learning in this class. Okay, it's an additional resource for them. Discussions. Be an active participant in your discussions. You want to, scaffold their learning. You want to build on their learning in the classroom, and they need your feedback. They need your expertise. They need to see you in the discussions, and that really does help their learning. We talked about this as well, using students' names. You might want to use it when you're posing questions or providing feedback or any of those things. So it helps personalize the course. And then lastly, if you know how your students are doing, a truly present teacher in the classroom, one who is truly present to students, knows how each of their students are doing. And it does take a little bit of our time to do that, but monitoring student progress and reaching out to struggling students is probably, a real critical part of our teaching, and one that we should try to do as often as we can. And it's not just your struggling students. You want to communicate and monitor student progress to everyone. But and this is kind of a different topic, but using the performance dashboard in the Blackboard course will help you monitor your students as well. So yeah, this is just some ways to be more present to your class, in your classroom. So kind of want you to reflect on the course that maybe you're teaching now or one you've taught in the past. What are some ways that you can be more present to your students? Some of us are present a lot, but what are some ways that we might be able to be more present to our students in the future? So just think about that for a moment, and if you just might give us one way that you might be able to be more present to your students.
I've got a question.
Oh, okay. We like questions too.
There's occasionally a student who requires a great deal of your time and presence, sometimes to the detriment of your time spent with some of your other students. I was just wondering if that's ever happened to anyone and what they've done to help minimize that kind of, that kind of like hand-holding across the internet. And I don't mean hand-holding as in we shouldn't all be, holding hands, but I mean really, where they are calling or they're doing, this 4 or 5 times a day, or in emails and in everything. Has anybody had that?
I know every faculty member has had a student like that, because they contact me and they're like, can you check on this? The student emails me 50 times a day. So
I think it's first maybe deciding, is maybe the student having a technical issue? Does it seem like a lot of technical issues, or is it that they don't have an understanding of what they're learning? That's what I do first. I try to decide, well, is this student contacting me all the time? Is it because they just don't know how to use the learning management system, or is it because they just don't have an understanding of what I'm teaching? And it could be that I'm not teaching it right, or it could be that, they maybe for whatever reason just don't get it. Maybe they need a tutor. I've referred students to tutoring before. I don't know, that can be a difficult situation. I think it's trying to just nail down kind of what we think the problem is first.
Yeah, I think that's the first step, is just figuring out, okay, why are they continuously coming in here to find a solution that fits?
I've not had a student like that. I've had an advisee like that. But in fact, this advisee is no longer with the institution. He still calls me. But yeah, I don't know. I've got some students that reach out more than others, but when it crosses the line to where they're contacting you 4 or 5 times a day, maybe they can just digest it to you and 1 email per day or something like that. If they're sending you multiple emails, maybe it's unrelated items, I don't know.
Or you could set a boundary and say, okay, I'm going to email you each day. At the end of the day, I'm going to collect your emails and I'll give you a response. You can sort of set boundaries with them early on.
That's a good idea. I sometimes I don't just answer questions, just so you know, and I don't just go, well, this is this. I say, well, do you remember when we were talking about? I mean, I try to have them, come up with their own answer, and so that I can maybe wean them off of needing me to use their own problem-solving skills. And sometimes I think they just want attention.
That could be.
I've always kind of wondered, how much is too much too. I mean, I sometimes feel guilty that I'm not responding to every student in a discussion forum, and being present, can you be over-present, almost to your detriment, and to your students' detriment, because you're spending time with everybody and not really digging in and nurturing those discussions that are really worth bringing forward. So that's always a tough one for me to find that balance.
Yeah, for my discussions, what I do is if the students are on the right track, I usually let them continue in their conversations without a whole lot of input. I'm really looking for students who don't seem to have a good understanding of the content, or are just off track, or they're, who knows what. Those are the ones I try to address. And I try to put resources out there that, if they're kind of off track, I'll just say, hey, look, check out, this part of the text, or, chapter 5, or whatever, kind of guide them in the right direction. But as far as those students that just seem like they need a lot of hand-holding, after a while, they do eat up too much of our time. We have probably 20, maybe 25 other students in the class who need our attention as well. And yes, there does need to be some, some guidelines and some, structure to, dealing with that, with those students. So
I know that sometimes, running was on, I haven't said anything up until now, by the way, so I'm not a figment of your imagination. I know sometimes I've had that a lot, especially when I have 2 courses that are intro courses. I mean, they're the first one for our program, and I get a lot of anxious, nervous adults in that class that sometimes don't act like adults. And I've always made it very clear in my announcement page and every time I put something in my lesson, if you have any questions or concerns, please email me privately and we will discuss this. And I usually have 1 or 2 that are nervous Nellies, and I'll get their email and I can tell by the way they're just rambling on in their email that they are just ecstatic. And the first thing I always say to them is, okay, first off, you need to breathe, okay? I understand, I can tell by the way you're typing that you are stressed out about, and recap what they've said so that they know I understand what they're trying to say, but we need to regroup here. And I've had more than one student on evals of the class say, you know, that helped me so much because I had to stop going in my own little whirlpool here and think about it. And then we could take it one step at a time. And a lot of times they just like compile everything all into one huge mound, and you have to weed it out and what's immediate and what's long term and split it out. And by the time you're done, it may take 3 or 4 emails, but by the time you're done, it makes a world of difference, and it helps them get back on track and get focused. Yeah.
I will say that email is not always effective for a CIS class because of the technical writing that has to be put in there, and they'll say, my computer just did this or that, and you have no idea what they did to get there. And that's why sometimes the live chat works better, or a phone works better, or something like that. Trying to get that done in an email is pretty difficult.
Yeah, in the student orientation course for first-time online students, we put in an assignment that had them take a screenshot so that they learn how to do that, because that way, hopefully, when they come to you with those kind of problems, they'll know how to take a screenshot, and it'll be a little helpful.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if everybody's in the OTC Online Facebook group, but if a student has an issue and we're not here, and you want to ask the group, it's a great way to kind of get a quick answer. Either somebody who's in another CIS course might have seen your issue that you can get some helpful tips, or Jackie and I, or Sherry, somebody can answer right away and maybe provide that feedback. And if it's a common issue, we can also post it in the OTC Online student Facebook group so other students can be aware. So it's a great forum to be able to get quick answers.
What forum is that?
The OTC Online Facebook group. So if you just do a search for OTC Online Facebook, or what is it, OTC Online Faculty Group?
Faculty.
You can probably
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
And we post a lot of stuff there. In fact, a lot of the things, if we have Blackboard issues, we often post it there before we go out to students and faculty. So it's kind of the first response area, and I know a lot of faculty are using it now, so.
Yeah, it's a great area to exchange ideas with other faculty members, and like Phelps said, if you need support after hours, you're most likely to get an answer there, because we monitor it. I keep an eye on it like 24 hours a day, so.
Literally.
No sleeping for you.
My body rejects sleep, so.
Well, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Otherwise, we appreciate you stopping by today for this session. And if you have any questions or need any assistance or anything, just let us know, and we'll be glad to help.
I just want to be able to go to the one tomorrow on Collaborate.